how to kick off the show here.
We're agreeing.
Himself cleaned up.
I'm sorry, everyone, but Papa Ron is muted.
I am not. We're having some technical difficulties. Let's try that again. Welcome to the Mafia Cast, part of the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast and Podcast Network. I'm your host, Papa Ron, and that's Casey over there. Mike will be with us eventually, maybe. Not sure. He's having some technical issues as well, but we decided to go ahead and kick this thing off so we're not too much later than we were. Now, Casey, what's going on? How are you, man?
Dude, it's been a while. It feels like it's been a while anyway.
It feels like it.
How's it been? I know you've been busy starting new job and family's been in town and everything. You know, are you finally able to breathe yet?
Yeah, I'm exhausted. So normally, everybody knows I went to vacation to Tennessee, was gone for a week or whatever it was, came back. My daughter from Oklahoma and 4 grandkids of hers and her husband all came here. They were here for 2 weeks. I started a new job. It's been a crazy, wild month for me and my family. Sorry I've missed a couple of episodes. Like you said, it feels like I've been gone for a while, but I'm back. Hopefully for the long haul. My schedule with the new job, I have Thursdays off, so we should be good to go. But the job has me out in the sun all day. I am beat. So if I ever come in like looking like a lobster, you know why?
See, I was gonna say you don't have the Italian like I do. I burn once and I just get a really nice brown tan all summer. Yeah, you definitely look like more like my wife who just turns into a lobster.
Yeah, that's basically me. What's been going on with you though? You and Mike. Well, I kind of listened to the show. In fact, last week when you guys were doing the show, I was able to listen to it live. I was stuck on the freeway in traffic, but listened to that, and you guys did a great job. Thank you again for holding down the fort. But what do you think? How'd you do? Well, we're gonna touch on some of the stuff you guys talked about too, though.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're going to talk about Kincaid and the possibility of him actually doing what we hope he's going to do and what that means for Knox's future. But the last couple weeks, I mean, last week I think it went well. Mike, he's great at the intro thing. I mean, he's a people person. He knows how to talk. So it was cool to hear his iteration of the intro and comparing it to yours. And sorry everybody, but you will never hear me do an intro. I don't have the gall for that. So I apologize, but it's a 2-man race for this team.
Well, and maybe if you did it, you would actually not have yourself muted.
Well, one of us has to have the technical difficulties here. It's usually me. Usually I'm the one lagging out. This time it was Mike. You're the one that was muted, so I'm just sitting up here on my high horse.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into this. I did want to touch on this a little bit because, and here's why. I have confidence in Kincaid is going to have a really good rookie season. I don't think what he's going to be doing is going to replace Knox, though, which is why I kind of felt like, regardless of what Kincaid does, I don't think it's going to affect Knox and his career with the Bills. I do think that the Bills' plans for Kincaid is a little different than just your typical tight end. I think you're going to see both of them on the field a lot. And I think you're going to see Kincaid moved around the field. I think you're going to see him in the slot, tight end. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved him out wide sometimes. So that's the only reason why I kind of wanted to touch up on this again. And, maybe some of our listeners can comment what they think on that. But what do you think, Casey, as far as is Kincaid the future tight end for the Bills, or are they going to be in tandem for a few years?
I think they will be in tandem for a few years because Kincaid isn't an inline tight end. He doesn't his stature doesn't suit that. You're not going to ask him to go too often and chip a defensive end, before he's going out for a route. But like we do with Dawson Knox. But Dawson Knox, I mean, he's a big boy. He's got some muscle to him. But he's, like you said, Kincaid's more of the pass catcher. He's more smooth, more fluid out in the field, finding the open zones, where Knox he'll run his route. If you throw it to him, he more likely than not will catch it now, unlike early in his career. But then he's going to run dudes over, and we've seen him get the Angry Run Awards on Good Morning Football. Kincaid, I mean, maybe he's going to run people over like that, but I mean, I see him more as like the Travis Kelce style. I don't think he's going to be Travis Kelce. But being able to smooth and run around guys, he's not the fastest guy, but he's elusive. So I think they're going to be paired at least through Knox's contract. But I mean, if somehow if like the cap doesn't balloon like we're hoping, and we do got to move it, and Knox just hasn't gotten any better, if he's just continually stayed the same, then I could see them pulling a Zach Ertz and moving him, while they still can get something for him.
Yeah, I guess if we get to that final year and they decide or make that decision that they're not planning to move forward with him, I can certainly see that. I'd have to look at it. I'm not sure how many more years he has left on that contract.
3.
So I would say at least for 2 more years, the two will play together. But I mean, you know what? I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this, like not mini camp, but training camp, preseason, of course, regular season, which we are 2 weeks away, I believe. I think the 26th is when training camp opens up.
Believe so.
So it's just around the corner. I don't expect them to show us too much, obviously, early on, but it'll be nice to see some football out there and get some real football news instead of the Stephon Diggs conversations or the DeAndre Hopkins conversations or insert whatever player name you want conversations, because, that's what the offseason is about, especially the June and July timeframe. Everybody wants to speculate on every time a player gets released. Oh, they're going to the Bills. Well, probably not, but
now. But we always complained during the drought, how come nobody ever wants to come here? But now, because we're good, everybody is projecting players to want to come here to chase that ring. But like, what do you like? So you brought up Hopkins. You did this to yourself. Like, what do you think? I mean, it's out there that he's received offers from Tennessee and from New England, but he's turned them down because he's waiting to see if anybody else would come along. I mean, A, do you think somebody else will? And B, why do you think he's waiting out like this instead of just taking one of those 2 deals?
I think he's waiting because he doesn't want to go to training camp.
Really?
I really don't. I really don't think it at this point has anything to do with the money. I wouldn't be even surprised if he knows who he wants to go, which one he wants to take. But veterans don't want to go to training camp, and if they can avoid it without getting fined, they're going to do it. Who's the other one that's out there right now that everybody's talking about? Oh my gosh, the running back.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, the brother. Now that's another one. Again, same situation. I just don't think these guys want to go to training camp. I think Cook's situation might be a little bit different because I don't know necessarily that he has received any offers that, one, he's satisfied with, or two. Well, we've heard about Miami, right? We've heard the story was Miami offered him a contract. He wasn't happy with it, even though, in his words, Miami was like his dream place. Like that's where he would love to go. He's from the area, go there, play, whatever. But kind of off tangent again, because it's what we do here at the Mafia Cast. The market for the running backs is just not what it is, and I hate to say this, but I think running backs need to just accept that fact and get what they can get now, because the market is different. It's gone the other direction, unfortunately, for them. I did hear an interesting suggestion. So years ago, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was not a rookie salary cap. Like the number one pick,
dude,
hold out for months.
Sam Bradford got paid.
Yeah, and then you got the
one that ruined it for everybody.
Right. Maybe they can change that for the running backs, though. Maybe they can lift that rookie cap for the running back position.
Like if you're
Because if you think
drafted in the
about it,
first round, then
right,
you get X amount of dollars, and second
exactly.
round X amount of dollar. I'd like that idea. That's actually because it makes it. You're right. For the players, it's a lot better. Because they're
Right.
never. I mean, running backs are way less guaranteed a second contract. Let alone to make it through their first full one. But that's a
Exactly.
really good idea.
Yeah, because by the time they get to the end of that first contract, people are already talking about them on the decline.
Yep.
Which is, we've talked about this before, which is strange to me how, 30 years ago, running backs, Barry Sanders played a decade and people said he was quitting his prime. 10 years later, he was still in his prime. Emmitt Smith played for what, 16, 17 seasons? Like a ridiculous. Thurman Thomas, I think, played for 12, 13 years. You just don't see that anymore. Maybe it's because the speed of the game is faster. The guys are bigger, whatever it is. But I think the league does need to find a way to help the running back position, those that are deserving of it, get paid instead of getting stuck on this rookie deal. And then by the end of that rookie deal, they're already beat up, banged up, and nobody wants them, or they're willing to take them, but on another rookie deal almost.
So, what about this? What if you're drafted in the first round, you're given in your running back, your team has to give you 6 years guaranteed money, because that's about for a good running back, a great running back in the NFL. That's about their prime. The first 5-6 years nowadays.
Yeah.
So I could see something like that to where all right, you're going to get, I don't know, $60 million, $75 million guaranteed over the first 6 years of your contract, of your career, flat out, period. And maybe you have to work with the teams in the NFL and NFLPA to figure out a way to where that doesn't truly affect the salary cap. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that makes it's built into the salary cap where it's this is the designated pay each team has to pay. So whether you fill up, you actually use all of what you're allotted or you don't, you still have to pay that amount,
right?
Each year. So
you look at Bijan Robinson. He's coming in this league. People are talking to him about being that next great running back.
Number one
fan. Like Saquon, and he's on a rookie deal. By the time he gets into that, and let's say they pick up his 5th-year option because he was their first-round pick, so he's 5 years. By then, I don't know how old he is right now. I'm going to guess he's probably around 21 or 22.
Yeah.
So you're talking 26, 27 years old by the time he gets to that into that rookie deal. Nobody's going to give him a big contract at 27 years old. So it would be cool to see if maybe the league and the NFLPA could kind of find some way to alleviate that and fix that, because then you won't have what we have now with Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, as John Robert mentioned, not signing their franchise tag. And I hope those two guys don't hold out all year long.
Please don't pull Le'Veon Bell. That was the worst thing he did for his career.
Oh yeah,
he got less money than he was offered anywhere after that, and he never played well ever again. Mm-hmm. Because running backs, in my opinion, are one of those positions where you do need those reps. You need to get into the flow of the game, and that's always been the argument with the running back by committee, to where these guys aren't getting enough reps. They can't get in the flow of game. They can't. They're just not getting it. But it is, in that sense, you can't take a whole year off. Look at Deshaun Watson. He took what was it, 2 years off? A year, 2 years?
A year and some change, I think. Yeah.
Look how he played last year. I mean, that's. I took Nick Chubb in our fantasy draft this year, our dynasty draft, and I was like, that's because they had Deshaun Watson, because they're gonna run that football like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. And I hope any of my friends and family that I play fantasy football with are not listening. But for those of you that do fantasy football, remember Kareem Hunt is no longer there. There are reports coming out of Cleveland that Chubb is more than capable and will receive the bulk of the backfield receptions. So Chubb could be a number one guy this year. So I'm going to leave it at that. Roy Collins here, simple answer to that: don't draft a running back in the first round, and that's probably exactly what would happen. Is nobody would draft a running back in the first round.
That's where you would have to tier it. You would have to figure it out.
Yeah,
there would have to be something.
Running back taken. Here's your wage scale.
Yeah, maybe they do it by position, taken by position.
Right.
by like where you're that could be it right there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we know. Um, I, we could go into that all day long.
I mean,
He chose to
hold
do
on.
something else that resulted in that. So
Not he hold on. He did choose to take time off because he sat out from the Texans. Remember?
that's
He,
true.
he was supposed to play and he chose not to. So
That's true.
that's on him.
All right, let's get into the next thing here. This is one of the things we hear all the time about Brandon Bean talking about building for the future, building ahead, and then actually we're just going to kind of put these two together. Actually, so is the Super Bowl window a thing, and are the Bills built for the long haul? They kind of go together, I think, right? Um, we've heard Brandon Bean talk about they're building for now, and they're always looking ahead to the future, and we're hearing people talk about the Bills Super Bowl windows closing. First of all, let me address the Super Bowl closing thing. To me, I don't even really think it's a thing. How many times have we seen an upstart team come out of nowhere and whose window was supposedly not open and just crash right through it and go to the Super Bowl? Cincinnati Bengals a couple years ago.
How about the Eagles the last 2 times they went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, there's
Out of
always
nowhere.
yeah,
Both of
there's
them.
always a couple of teams that rise up out of nowhere and that window. I think the window is just always open. Personally, if you want to use that analogy, it's always open for everybody. It's who jumps through it, I guess, right? Because
Yep.
we've seen great teams in the past who were Super Bowl favorites and just had god awful seasons. It happens. So when I hear people talk about the Super Bowl window for the Bills being closed or is closing, I just think it's silly. Um,
Can I ask you a
especially,
question?
yeah,
Who's the quarterback?
of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
It would be one Josh Allen.
How long's he under contract for? Like 4 years, 5 more years?
Something like that.
How much longer do you think he's got in this league? Probably 10, safe 10.
yeah.
I'd say the Bills got about 10 years. That dude is too good to not win a Super Bowl. Period.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. I know Dan Marino. Those kind of guys didn't win a Super Bowl, but look at nowadays. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Big Ben won his Super Bowl. The only one that didn't out of like all those guys was Phillip Rivers. You know, I mean, Big Ben. Eli got 2. Peyton finally got one, and then the second one came late. You know,
Let me ask you, going back to Philip Rivers, it wasn't for the lack of his ability or skill.
no.
If you think place him on a different team, put him with the Steelers, swap him and Big Ben. Do you think maybe the Steelers win maybe even more Super Bowls?
Well, that was my argument with the whole Rivers and Eli trade. I was like,
Yeah.
if you just flip flop that trade doesn't happen, it's the exact same careers. Like in my opinion, or Philip does even better. Maybe he wins 3 rings instead of Eli's 2. You know,
Right.
because I mean, I think we can all agree that Philip was probably a better overall quarterback than Eli Manning. You know, I don't know what the stats are head to head or anything. Just eye test. It seemed like Philip was
Yeah.
was a better gunslinger.
Agreed. But that supports my belief that wins are not a QB stat.
No,
Because yeah, if you there's any number of quarterbacks in the history that you could swap from one team to another, and they probably win one. Um, like even Dan Marino, like put him on those San Francisco teams that Joe Montana or Steve Young played on, and not to slight what Steve Young or Joe Montana did by any means, but I can almost guarantee you that Marino would have won some Super Bowls with those teams.
yeah.
So
I mean, look. I mean,
yeah,
we can say what we want. I mean, imagine if Dan Marino was given the 91, like the 90s Bills. You know, maybe we win all 4. Who knows?
so
Like we won't ever know.
yeah. Mike here says how many teams, and this is Mike, our fellow co-host, who's just he's still trying to get on, but how many teams have a Super Bowl window right now?
Oh
Again, I go back
God.
to what I said. Any team at any time could rise up and be a Super Bowl contender that nobody's expecting. Who, if I were to look in,
I could almost
if
do it
I
right
were
off
to,
the cusp.
yeah,
Every
if there were some teams that I could just remove altogether and say, okay, that's probably not going to happen with this team or that team, who would you say?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was reading a comment.
If there was some teams that you could just pull out of there and altogether and say, okay, Yes, it could be any given team could rise up, but these teams, it's just not happening. Who would that be for you?
The Browns, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Browns, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Texans. Yet, not yet. Like we're talking about winning a Super Bowl this year.
This year, yeah.
Commanders, not yet.
But see, even
Tennessee,
the Commanders, though,
Tennessee, no.
even the Commanders have some talent. What if
That
Sam Howell
depends on.
goes out
I
and
say
plays well?
that depends on Sam Howell. If he plays the way
Right.
he did in week 16 and 17, they can easily be the number one seed in the NFC East. I won't dispute
Exactly.
that at all.
That's my point. There are a lot of unproven quarterbacks specifically in this
Yep.
league that you don't know what's going to happen to them.
Well, isn't
Maybe
that
CJ
what?
Stroud of the Texans becomes Rookie of the Year and this great, phenomenal quarterback, or maybe it's Bryce Young, or maybe neither one of them. They all suck. I mean, you just never know.
Well, out of all those teams that I just listed, the quarterbacks are Kyler Murray, sort of right now injured.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. Neither one of those two guys really scare me that much. I mean, Kyler, obviously he can run, but his running scares me more than his passing. I said Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, and Malik Willis. Those guys don't scare me. Justin Fields, not yet. I mean, he can run. Yes, he can run very well. He still hasn't proven to me that he can really throw the ball well and consistently in the league. I'm sure I said one other one, but I can't remember right now. But none of them nobody's a great quarterback. And to me, that's kind of what your window is. Do you have a good quarterback or a great quarterback? Your Super Bowl window's open. I mean, you had to be at least very good. I mean, Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, is like the worst a quarterback you need to have in order to win a Super Bowl. It's just
That's the bar right there.
The days of like Trent Dilfer, and those guys winning Super Bowls is never happening anymore. There's too much talent around the league, and I'm sorry, but defense isn't winning championships anymore. It is offense. You have to have the best offensive talent around you, and the Chiefs just have the best quarterback and head coach.
Yeah, I'm going to go back here on a couple of these comments really quick. Eli Manning barely has a winning record, but he'll be in the Hall of Fame conversation because of his 2 Super Bowls. This is a great topic, actually, and it comes up a lot of whether or not he is. But this also coincides with this comment here. It isn't that I disagree with the QB stat discussion, but if wins aren't a QB stat, then why are Super Bowls so important to their legacies? Preach, Matt. I'm with you. It drives me nuts to hear when people compare quarterbacks solely on their Super Bowls. You have to look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the accolades as far as, Super Bowls. Pro Bowls don't count because that's garbage.
Super Bowl MVPs.
You got to look at the team that they played for.
Yep.
Like, you put Joe Montana on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the 80s and 90s, and he's not winning nothing. As good as he was, he's not winning anything. Today, I think with the quarterbacks, no, I don't think that the Trent Dilfers of the world can have done. But if you have a Kirk Cousins, I do think you need a supporting cast.
Yes, absolutely. That's
like Justin Jefferson.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and I'll put Jalen Hurts in that conversation until proven otherwise, for me, Jalen Hurts needs to show up a little bit more in the passing game. But that's just me. But I'll still put him in that conversation. Those guys, I think, are good enough quarterbacks that they raise up the people around them to be better, as opposed to I don't think Kirk Cousins is that quarterback. I think he plays to the level of the talent around him.
Yep, absolutely.
There was another one. So here's a couple of other teams in the comments. Atlanta Falcons, not yet. John Roberts said that. I've actually heard the Falcons name or team popping up from time to time as a sleeper team. There's a lot of people that are pretty high on them. I don't know if it's because of Robinson. I don't know why. I really don't. Maybe they think Desmond Ridder is the next great thing.
Nope.
Another unproven quarterback.
Let me tell you exactly why Atlanta's being slept on. And my wife is going to thank the heavens that I'm saying this because they have Taylor Heineke. Dude, I don't know what it is. To me, like if Taylor Heineke was the size of Josh Allen, he would be Josh Allen. He just doesn't have the pure physical like gifts that like all these other talented quarterbacks like have in the league. But damn, like he has probably the biggest heart I've ever seen. I mean, I've never seen a
He's fun to
quarterback
watch.
will like his team to win like so much as he has. Like, I mean, he doesn't care what happens to his little 6'1" body, like 200-pound frame. Like, he will go at any linebacker, dive at any pylon. And I
He's
mean,
probably not going to start though.
see, they paid him $20 million guaranteed over 2 years. Now, people are going to compare that to what the Steelers gave Trubisky, but I still believe that the plan was for Trubisky to start Pickett's first rookie year, and that it just didn't work out well. And I think they're going to start with Ritter or like let Ritter and he compete, but I think they kind of know that Ritter isn't going to be it, and you kind of know what you're going to get with Heineke now. He's kind of like a Fitzpatrick-y kind of guy, he makes some mistakes, but he's probably going to save you in the end. So I think that's why I could see it. They have young weapons. They need to build the defense a little bit more around AJ Terrell. But I mean, if Heineke can do something with that football, I mean, that offense could be something.
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. We're not an NFL podcast, so I'm going to kind of get away from this. There's another one. Tampa Bay has no shot. They have a lot of talent around the quarterback, but who knows who that's going to be.
Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask.
Yeah. Let's jump over here to what John Roberts said. I like the Bills running backs this season. This was not in our topics of discussion for this week, but since you brought it up, we have kind of touched on the running back position for the Bills a little bit. I think a couple of weeks ago, the last one I was on, we talked about maybe the hierarchy of that. And maybe John has heard some previous conversations between us, and he wants to just kind of poke that fire a little bit, because I've said that I don't think they carry 4 running backs. Casey thinks that they will. And I'm saying 3 running backs, not counting Gilliam, because he's a fullback kind of running back. But I think if he wasn't in the fold, I could see them keeping 4 running backs. But he is, so I think they only go 3. But I agree with you, John. I love the running back room. I think they're going to be good this year running the football. I don't think they're going to run the ball more. I just think they're going to be better at it.
I agree. And that's what I want. I don't want them to run the football more. And we have the number 1-2 quarterback in the league. Why would you want to take the football out of his hands more?
Right.
Special things happen.
Yeah. Going back to the Bills built for the long haul, we really didn't even address it very much, but Mike brought it back around. Thank you, Mike. Adding Kincaid when we have Knox shows that we are in for the long haul. We have some solid players in key positions, but we are not afraid to move in young talent at those positions as well. And that's a very good point.
Why doesn't he sound this smart when he's on here?
I'm going to be interested to see. At some point, I feel like the Bills are going to have to start drafting wide receivers high. I'm going to be curious to see how Diggs handles that. I hope he takes it with a grain of salt and realizes, okay, I'm getting towards the tail end of my career. I understand that. Let me bring this young first-round wide receiver in. Let me teach him, mold him, help him, mentor him, and let's go forward and win another Super Bowl or 2 before I decide to retire. I hope he takes that mentality. Unfortunately, I don't think he would.
See, that's where I'll disagree with you. He's already proven that's what he does. And how many videos, have we seen come out of practice and training camps of him working with other players?
None of these guys were drafted to replace him. I'm talking about the Bills.
Anybody can replace him. If that was the case, he should have been damn worried about Gabe Davis his second or third year.
He was a 3rd-round pick, though. He was
a 5th-round pick. But the way he came onto the team and the way he performed, it's like, well, hey, that maybe there's a new young dog in town.
I just see it like kind of like when Aaron Rodgers, when they drafted Jordan Love, it pissed off Aaron Rodgers.
No,
downhill that went for the Packers in that relationship.
Do not compare Diggs to Mr. Ayahuasca boy over there. All right.
Okay, we'll leave that alone. until the day comes when it happens. Speaking of which, let me just ask you, when do you think that comes? Dixon's shown no signs of slowing down, and he's what, 30, I believe?
29.
29, 30? How many more
Yeah.
years do you think he's got?
Well, they gave, what was it, a 4-year extension, which turned it into a 6-year deal. So he would be done at like 35. So I think, the kicker years at the end, probably 34. But he's never been, knock on wood. Everybody listening to this, knock on wood. He's never been hurt, seriously injured. Let me say that. He's never been injured. So he doesn't take big hits. And a couple of times we see him get up a little bit slower. Yeah. But as Matt just said, this is a perfect comparison to what I was just thinking. He's going to turn in to Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless wonder, because Larry didn't get hurt very often. Off the top of my head, I can't remember anything specific where he was out a full year anyway. Yeah. But I could easily see Diggs, because he's so good at route running, you take your advice and go be the slot, turn into that Cole Beasley role in a couple of years and just let him work that way. Because that way he'll still get his catches. He'll still get his bonuses. He'll still get his touchdowns. He'll still get those bonuses. He just won't get the yards that hopefully Gabe Davis and Khalil Shakir will be getting.
Yeah, maybe they will. And Davis is another discussion too, but we'll save that one for a later time. I want to go back to what Roy said here. How many first-round graded wide receivers are available when you're picking near the end of the first round? And yes, that is true. There's not typically a first-round graded wide receiver. But if the Bills see that there's a need to upgrade because Diggs has lost a step, who's to say they don't trade up and then take a big-name wide receiver coming out of college? Just from what I've seen from Diggs to this point, he's very vocal. He's what's the term? He wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's fine. But I do think that would rub him the wrong way. If the Bills traded up to get a young wide receiver to be the new number one, whether it's now or down the road, I don't think that would sit well with Diggs. I just don't.
What do you got against Diggs? Are you trying to get – you already have been unblocked by Jordan Poyer. Are you trying to get blocked by Stephon Diggs? Why do you hate our guys so much?
I don't hate him. I've told you. I just don't like the way he handles his emotions. Like, keep it to yourself. Go to the coach behind the closed doors. Have a normal grown-up conversation, not storming out of the – you even said it yourself how he just about ran you and Mike over, like, exiting the stadium one
day. That is not what happened.
That is what you said.
He did not almost run us over. He drove next to me, just on the shoulder, and might have crushed the curb a little bit.
A little bit.
But dude, he's fine. You can't love a dog till it barks. And it's just let him go. Everybody expresses themselves differently. Me. I'm not afraid. I'm not one afraid to tell anybody what I'm thinking. And you know that, but you're kind of the opposite. You kind of keep more things to yourself. You stew in your frustrations, and I'm gonna tell you when I'm upset.
Oh, I don't stew. Okay, good example of that. I can't remember what it was. Remember when I was texting you and Mike, and I was kind of going off about something, but I kept it between the three of us. I didn't go out on Twitter like a lot of people were doing. I didn't go out on other social medias and just blowing up and venting and throwing it all out there in the world and then be like, oh man, I was wrong about that one. Because you just look foolish. And to me, that's what's happening with Diggs. He's making, whether you agree with it or not, he's making a spectacle of it. Media's asking about it. It's causing a distraction. And why the hell are we talking about Diggs again?
You started it.
No, I didn't start that. I don't want to talk about that. We're going to move on to the next one. Okay, let's get back to this. Are the Bills built for the long haul? Past 2024. Mike mentioned it. Bring in somebody like Kincaid when you already have a Dawson Knox. What are maybe some other positions that you see where maybe they've already done that? Where we have
built for the future?
Yeah, we have a concrete starters now, and they've already brought in somebody they think might take over.
Cornerback. I think
who's that?
Kyer Elam and Christian Benford. I think they are these two future starters for this team. I think as much, and I mean, I have been the biggest diehard Trey White fan. I think he's probably only got maybe on that like 2-3 years. I mean, finish out this contract.
He's younger than Diggs. He's younger than
He's
Diggs. Why
younger
do you
than
feel
Diggs.
that Diggs
He's
can
younger
play?
than Diggs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
He's not on his rookie deal anymore, but he's
in the middle of his second deal.
Yeah.
But if he corners we see, I mean, look at Josh Norman. He exploded. He got that giant contract, and then he faded away. He stayed relevant because of his name and because of his mouth, and that's why Rex Ryan gave him the gig here. And for some reason, Sean McDermott did too. But I think Trey just might be one of those casualties down the road. I have that feeling.
Here's an interesting point. Okay, first I'm going to go with Roy, and I hope you're wrong about Trey. And I'm sure you think the same way. I think hopefully he has a few, a good 4 or 5 years left in him. But Roy brings up the safety. He's going to need attention, and that was the position I wanted to address here because I feel like they already have. We talked about this before with Zane Anderson, who they signed was the very first free agent in the offseason they brought in. A similar story, I guess, if you will, to Poyer. Nobody really knows who he is. He's coming from one of the other teams. Wasn't really a starter, but he's got speed. He's actually the fastest of all the safeties. I can't remember what the 40 was. I want to say it was like 4.4, 45, 4.5, somewhere around there. But then Matt brings this point up. Trey can move to safety. There's some very good corners in the past that have moved to safety and continued their careers for another 4 or 5 seasons, and were very, very good.
We've also seen Richard Sherman try to do that and it not work out so well.
Right. But going back to your point of Elam and Benford being the future of the corners, so if they move into those 2 corner spots and take over, maybe that bumps White over into a safety position alongside Hamlin or Anderson or Taylor Rapp. Rapp's a good candidate because he's still young. So I think, to me, the safety is a position that they have already addressed for the future with the new additions there.
With Rapp. Hey, and let's not forget, I mean, DeMar Hamlin is the one that stepped in and made plays last year. He can use help in pass coverage. I understand, but he is a damn good run stuffer. He is so good at playing in the box. If Taylor Rapp, if we can just turn Taylor Rapp into Micah Hyde and turn DeMar Hamlin into Jordan Poyer and let him go just play in the box, that would be huge. So I'm with you. I think that we're going to be okay at safety. I think our defensive back room is going to be okay for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And another position to look at. There's a whole bunch of comments here. Trey White's only 28, so he's a year younger than Diggs. John Robert Taylor Rapp is 26, so we could have him definitely be stepping into that. And then there's also the conversation of Benford moving to safety, which we've heard that numerous times this offseason. Even when he was drafted, they talked about that possibility. I want to talk about the defensive line really quick. And as far as the long-term prognosis there, they brought in Leonard Floyd, who isn't going to be around much longer. Von Miller, who isn't going to be around that much longer. Are you concerned about the future of the defensive line?
Well, Ed Oliver's going to be around a while. If Groot progresses the way he's supposed to, he's going to be around a while. So that leaves defensive tackle open again still. That like another defensive tackle spot open again, I should say. And but what are we going to do with Basham? What are we going to do with Epinesa? What are we going to do with Tim Settle? Daquan Jones is getting up there. Jordan Phillips, he's still relatively young. He's had a couple of years where he's been hurt. So, I mean, in my opinion, I understand like you're injured, you're not playing, but you're not playing. That's less damage you're doing to our body as a whole. So to me, it's kind of like a wash. Maybe that extends his career out a little bit if he's staying healthy, working out, trying to stay in football shape, whatever shape that his injury may allow him to be in. defensive end is what scares me the most because of
Really?
the unknown. With I mean, unless Epinesa steps up and we can have Epinesa and Russo as our starting ends, as Von Miller and Floyd end up like being not phased out, but winding down, like truly winding
Right.
down to their careers.
So are
Um,
you out on Basham?
yeah, I've been out on Basham for a while. I mean, he just doesn't do it for me. I mean, I loved Epinesa coming out of the draft. I thought he was going to be the first defenseman drafted. When he fell to us in the second round, I was ecstatic. And Basham, I saw him coming out of the draft, and I saw the athletic ability, but I thought he was kind of like an Ed Oliver, undersized. He had great college numbers. He played at Wake Forest, which it's a SEC, but they don't play the ACC, but they don't play the upper echelon of the ACC
Yeah.
every year. And so I just didn't. He didn't pass the eye test for me, and so I always have been skeptical. And I know he's made some splash plays, but
There's been a few.
he's never been consistent enough for me to warrant a second contract. Epinesa 6.5 sacks last year, increasing every single year, and if we can throw a little bit of money at him and keep him in the rotation, if he keeps getting better, if he gets to 8.5 this year, maybe this year, then hell yeah, extend him, please. I would love to.
Yeah, I think I'm more confident in the defensive ends than I am the defensive tackles long term. I think this coming season we're stacked at defensive tackle. I do honestly believe that. I think there's a ton of talent in there, but they're older guys with the exception of Oliver. There's not a lot of youth in there. I'm not sure how old Puna Ford is, but he's not a spring chicken. He's not, like
He's like 28, 29, like the Trey White age,
yeah,
right
I
around
think
there,
probably so.
which isn't
Um,
bad. Hey, look at the money we gave Daquan, who was 31 when we signed him. So D tackles can play a while.
Yeah, they could. John here says Vaughn was impressed with Bastion because he came in more muscular. I feel like I hate to say this about Von Miller, but he's overly optimistic about everything.
Yeah.
So when he speaks, I tend to like, oh, okay,
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. It's
exactly.
one of your grandpa's old folk tales.
Yeah.
He's kind of
Let's get to this other thing. Are the '90s throwbacks back, and do we want them to be? You're referring to the red helmet, I'm assuming.
red helmet, blue jersey, white pants.
What do you want? Do you want to see it?
Dude,
You didn't grow up with it, so
hell yeah, I want to see it. Are you kidding me? It would be so cool. The only red helmets I saw were the 2000s with the dark blue jerseys, which I know I'm going to get crucified for. I kind of like them. I don't know if it's
no.
just like childhood nostalgia or what, but I kind of
I
like them.
hated those jerseys.
I always kind of liked them a little bit. So when we switched to the white helmet, I was like it was stigmatized to me, like red helmets were bad. And I also heard the red helmets, that's what we would lost the Super Bowl in. We're gonna win a Super Bowl in a white helmet. And I was like, no. But I can't wait to see. I hope they bring it back. I just think they're so slick and so cool, and just with the designers that they have now, I think they can really work these to be really nice.
Yeah, even though I grew up with the red helmets, I'm not really a fan. I wouldn't mind if they brought it back for a game or two, like they do with the
Yeah,
old white helmets of the '60s. That's cool.
absolutely. Yeah, that's all I'm looking for is just bring it
Okay.
back. A couple. I don't want it back full
Yeah,
time. I love the all white helmet
I
with
do
our
too.
logo.
Well,
But
there's a contingency of Bill's Mafia out there that want the red helmet back permanently.
no.
Um, and I'm not into the whole. I'm trying to think of the term when people wear a certain thing because they think it's going to help the team. Superstition.
Oh,
I'm not into that kind of thing. So I don't know if some people want the red helmet back because they think it'll help them get to the Super Bowl or what. But
Roy just had a great question.
is
Is
it
it
time for a new logo? No,
no?
not a new logo. Don't change the logo.
The only way we change this logo is we go back. to the standing
Yeah.
buffalo. That's the only other logo that in Bills history that is better than what we currently have.
No new logo. Yeah, I'm with you, man. No new logo.
No.
Like if they want to maybe, I don't know, spice it up somehow, some way a little bit, that's fine. But you got to keep the charging buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what about? I mean, so would you be down for them to like come back this year? And don't mind me, I'm just taking ibuprofen. My back is killing me.
For a, for a couple of games, sure. That would be fine with that. I could for nostalgia purposes, I think it would be kind of cool to see it. The red helmet with Josh Allen and that visor that they like to show on social media all the time. I think it would be cool. Mike says just for the color rush game, I would not want that. All
See, I
red
don't want
coat,
the
head to
all red.
toe.
No.
No.
And well, that and the fact that the reds are two different tones.
Yeah.
The red, like if you do it in Madden, I know Madden, ooh, but if you do the red helmet in Madden with the red jersey,
Oh,
it
here's
looks
another one.
it looks terrible. And I'm colorblind, and I can tell. So if I think it looks bad, then that's real bad.
Yeah, I would not be down for the all red head to toe. That would
No,
no thanks.
not one
Uh,
bit.
Let's get to this last topic here because I was probably this could go for a minute. But Bills versus Chiefs versus Bengals. I hate the fact that the Bengals are even talked about in this. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I just don't like the Bengals. But
I think that's it
um,
because they deserve to be in this conversation.
I just when I watch them play, I'm just not impressed. I don't know what it is. You talk about all the time about the eye test, right? When I watch them, if I had never known who the team is, didn't know any of the players, didn't know the record, and I watched them play a game, win or lose, I'd be like, that dude's not that good. That again, maybe that's just because I just simply don't like them. But I felt that way even before all the shenanigans from last week or from last season. Um, Even the season that they beat the Chiefs and went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Even against the Chiefs, I felt like in that game the Chiefs lost the game. Bengals didn't win it. And when I watch the Cincinnati Bengals, that's what comes out to me is they're just not that great of a team. I know the record speaks for itself. I know they went to the Super Bowl, blah blah blah. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not I just don't think they're that good.
I understand that the Bills only put up 10 points against them in the playoffs. And I'll eat, the words I'm about to say, but their defense isn't that good. It's not. It wasn't. Let me change that. It wasn't. Now they have Daxton Hill coming in, stepping in at safety. They lost both Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Chidobe Awuzie left. They don't have who was the other super annoying guy? Eli Apple. Trey Hendrickson's still
super
there.
annoying, and everybody knows who you're talking about.
Exactly. Sam Hubbard is still there. I get it. They do have Logan Wilson, who is one heck of a linebacker. He is phenomenal. He and they do have Pratt, Jermaine Pratt. I believe that's his first name. I know its last name's Pratt. To me, their defense like always kind of like resembled the Bills. Like they wanted to play the Bills style. Like Logan Wilson reminds me a lot of Matt Milano. Just play style, very good in pass coverage, good downhill tackler. But their defense just doesn't. They have a couple good individual players, but it's never great. It's just that offense. They have Tyler Boyd, probably the best slot receiver in the game. I mean, excluding Cooper Kupp. They have Jamar Chase, top 5 arguably receiver in the game. T. Higgins, a top 12
number 1 receiver.
T. Higgins, arguably a top 12, 15 receiver in the game. Joe Burrow, there's no arguing he's top 8. In my opinion, I mean, I put him top 4, minimum top 4.
I would go top 8, but I'm not doing top 4 for him.
He's top 10. So, and they have Zach Taylor, who learned from Sean McVay, great offensive mind. So I understand, like, their offense is what's scary. They can go in a shootout, but their defense
scary.
is what causes the shootout. They built their team that way.
Yeah, let's go back to our earlier discussion regarding the quarterbacks and the teams. Put Joe Burrow on a different team without all those weapons. Is he the same guy? When I watch Patrick Mahomes, there's plays throughout the game, throughout a quarter, and you're like, oh my God, what did he just do? I can't believe he made that play happen. I've never seen that from Burrow. Maybe I'm sure somebody can probably go out there and find a highlight or two, like, oh, look, he can do it. Okay, he did it once. But you see Josh Allen do that. You see Jalen Hurts do that all the time. Like, how did he do that? I mean, I've just never really seen Joe Burrow be that guy. Like, I don't know. I feel like his supporting cast supports him more than the other way around.
Here's going to be the argument against yours, and it's not what I mean. It's just what I know would be brought up is Tom Brady. Tom Brady never really did anything eye-popping. He wasn't super athletic. I mean, Joe was more athletic than Brady was, but Brady was known for that laser accuracy, and that's what Joe is known for. But Joe just has the receivers that when he gets them that ball on the slant, they can go 85, 75 yards. Brady just didn't have that. He had little Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. And 1 year Randy Moss went, oh my God, give him one great weapon. And he goes 16-0, almost wins breaks every passing record,
Exactly.
So that's what Joe Burrow is living right now. He's living the Randy Moss year, only he's got 2.5 of them.
Which again, you're supporting what I just said, that his supporting cast is more supporting him than the other way around.
But we will never know. We will never.
Him Wes Welker and the cast of characters that Tom Brady had the majority of his career. Do you think the Patriots go to all those Super Bowls and win them with Joe Burrow? I mean, it's impossible to answer that question.
I also don't think I've seen. I mean, we could have had the same argument about Carson Wentz before he blew out his knee. The year he blew out his knee, like we were like, damn, like he could be it. Yeah. He could be the one. I understand Joe already blew out his knee and came back even better, but it's still too early in his career, to say they could, like they are this and they are that. From in my opinion.
I like this. Joe Burrow is this generation's Marino in terms of play style. That's a good point because Marino had the Mark brothers, Mark Duper and Clayton, right? Mark Clayton. Probably the best duo of wide receivers in the game back at that time in the 80s and 90s. Well, mostly the 80s, I think, with those two guys. But again, all this is hearsay. I mean, you can say the same thing about Jim Kelly. Would Jim Kelly have gone to 4 Super Bowls if he played on, I'll use the same team, Tampa Bay back in those days? Probably not. So I do think that you have to have all of it. All of it has to be there. You can have an above-average quarterback if you have elite receivers, or you can have above-average receivers if you have an elite quarterback, and it works. You don't necessarily have to have elite everywhere. But for me, I think it's more of Burrow as an above-average quarterback with elite talent around him. I don't see it the other way around. And maybe when T. Higgins leaves, if he does, we assume he probably will because I don't see how the Bengals could afford all three of those guys. Maybe we'll see. You'll still have Jamar Chase. I mean, and there's even people that say the same thing about Josh Allen, though. Like, he didn't become Josh Allen we know today until Diggs showed up. And that's true. I do think that had a lot to do with Allen's development over the previous years, though. But I do think Diggs helped in that development. I think now Allen's at the point where he is a Patrick Mahomes, where he can support the people around him as opposed to the other way around. I just don't see Burrow as that guy right now.
Well, we saw the progression with Josh Allen. That's the argument against that. We saw, he was trash, but you saw the glimpse. You saw the flashes rookie year. Second year, all right. Look at this. I mean, John Brown, Cole Beasley stepping right up, Josh is at least looking like he belongs. Not that he's going to be a starter, but he belongs in the NFL. And then, boom, year 3 happens. And wow, but that's what happens when somebody is finally 24, 25 years old. They're finally fully matured. They got their baby fat off them. They got their NFL muscle on them now. You finally got better players around him. He understands the system more. He understands the coaches and players, and the coaches understand him more and just what he likes to do and tendencies and all that. So, and then, it's like the advice parents would give you when you were a kid, when you were playing with the older kids. Go play with the older kids because they will make you better,
Yeah.
faster. They never said go play with the kids that are terrible at sports. So you go look like an athlete. So you go look like a star. No,
Oh, well, some parents do.
but yeah, that's a good point. But most parents would tell you go play with people better than you because that's how you're going to get better. Diggs was definitely better than Josh Allen that first year, but Diggs unlocked and showed Josh, you were able to do this. You can see, I told you can do this, and I think he's going to be able to do it after Diggs, and because Josh is that kind of talent. So it only time will tell on this kind of thing, man.
This is why I love the NFL. There's always so many storylines, so much intrigue.
So fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's the worst drug there's ever been.
Yeah.
The worst drug.
Roy says, can't blame a quarterback for having good talent around him. I'm not blaming Burrow for being good by any means. I'm just simply saying I think he's being supported by the cast more so than him supporting his cast. That's all. He's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not, but I don't think he's top 4. And that's a conversation for another day.
We might have to make a list next week.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, did you have a question for Papa Ron this week or no?
Not really. How are you, Papa Ron? How are you? Are you doing okay? I know, like we said earlier, you've been stressed. You've had family. I know I don't care what anybody says. Family is stressful, especially when they're in your house. And you had a house chock full of it. And
it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was pretty chaotic, pretty just crazy. But all the kids got along really well together. They had a great time. And it's like my wife says, this is going to be 2 weeks of their summer that they will never forget. Yeah. They had a great time. So that was super cool. I do it again anytime. But my daughter and her family probably might actually move up here to Boise, Idaho with us. So
nice.
That'll be pretty cool. But
hey, then you can all move out here to Buffalo all at once.
That's the plan. I'm going to get everybody, all the families corralled here in Boise, and then I'm going to uproot them all, and we're going to Buffalo.
Dude, this is where nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills comes in.
That's right.
Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, we're going to get out of here until next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And thank you again for joining us here at the Mafia Cast. Once again, part of the Buffalo Rumblings podcast and VidCast Network. Stay tuned in about 2 minutes for AJ's analysis to continue the evening on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. Everybody have yourself a good night and go Bills.
Go Bills. Bye, Mike.